All right, I'm here with Matthew Hamachek and Erica Sashin, the executive producers and directors of the Dynasty UConn Huskies. Hi, guys. How's it going?
Hi, great.
Great. How are you doing?
Doing good. All right, my first question is, how long was this documentary in the works? If UConn had ended their championship drought sooner than 2025, would it have come out sooner?
Oh, well, we were basically on the project, I think, at the beginning of 2025. And you have to remember, if you're following the team at that point, I think during that season, they had played three top 10 teams or something like that, and they'd lost to all of them. So it didn't seem like when we signed on that there was any great hope of a national championship in the future. And I don't think that, Erica or I are, real UConn fans necessarily. We didn't grow up, we're not obsessed with women's basketball, but I think it really benefited us. And, Erica can elaborate on this, but I think when you have that perspective and you're not entirely focused on the story, you focus on what makes these things universal, where sort of the basketball and the championships and how the team's doing is less important than sort of finding these characters and what makes what they're doing recognizable to anybody who's watching, whether they like sports or not.
So it was just an added benefit that they ended up winning the championship.
Yeah, it was a good story, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah, I mean, we really set out to tell the story of this like enduring dynasty without the expectation that they were going to win in 2025. And it was incredible that they did, um, especially after a 9-year drought. But yeah, that wasn't our original expectation.
That's really cool. So as storytellers, what was it like telling Paige's story and following the 2025 season?
Well, we really didn't, the great part about making documentaries is that you get to, especially when you don't sort of come in with this preconceived notion of what you think the story should be, when you're not a fan of the thing, or you don't think of yourself as an expert on the thing. It's really a process of listening to the people who were there, right? And observing. And so, yeah, we filmed and we rolled, during that season and captured all of that material. But then it's, sitting with Paige and listening to her talk about all of the physical and mental anguish that she had to go through in order to get to that spot. So I think, you know, that process of sort of pulling back the curtain and understanding what she was really going through, because everybody kind of knew that, she wanted to win a national championship. But I think she, in her interview, was very honest and forthright with us about the things that she probably hadn't talked a lot about in the past.
What did you learn about Geno from making this documentary?
Um, so much. I mean, he is a very complex leadership style, but it really stems from his own lived experience. He came here as a young boy from Italy as an immigrant and couldn't speak the language and felt like he had to be better than everybody else at something in order to break through and to justify himself, really. And so he has his own fear of failure, and he really coaches his players to not have that fear of failure because I think it can get in the way for so many of them. And so, in a lot of the cases, we heard stories from the players of him being able to sort of coach that out of them. Um, so yeah, he's a very multi-layered, fascinating protagonist for us. Yeah.
And what did you learn about Pat Summitt?
Oh, just, basically that everybody said she was pretty much the greatest coach in, the history of sports, more or less. That, in addition to being a great X's and O's coach, that she was also a civil rights leader, always gracious, everybody we talked to uh, said just incredible things about her. And I think that the complex relationship that Geno and her had was endlessly fascinating. Because, as Erica was talking about, you start out with this kid who's an immigrant who doesn't speak the language on the playground and thinks that if he can just beat somebody at something, that'll prove his sort of right to be there. And then, he wins a championship, beats her once, and then realizes shortly thereafter that, she's going to be his foil for a number of years. And to watch that motivate him and push him, it was endlessly fascinating to watch, not only in talking to him about it, but then also we were able to speak to people who were great friends of Pat, because Pat's obviously no longer with us, and really to hear their firsthand accounts of how she would talk about Geno, how that relationship evolved and where it ended, was fascinating.
To wrap it up, I guess, what was your favorite part of making the documentary?
For me, it was getting to speak with some of the most incredible players and women and athletes out there. That's really one of the things that drew me to want to do this in the first place. And it was just really, a privilege to sit across from them and learn, about their experience there and their personal growth and, what it was like to be a player under Geno, the struggles, and really in all the cases, the eventual kind of self-realization was really great.
I think,
Matthew?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, yes, absolutely. Same as Erica. I think, getting to spend that much time with Geno, I think we probably did, like 15 hours of interviews with him, was really special. And, also, frankly, though we didn't plan it, getting to witness what it's like to be with this team over the course of this year, a team that, this is in the third episode, but a team that really hadn't figured out how to get over that hurdle, and how to sort of get out of its own way. And a lot of that had to do with Paige, and as she talks about in the series, and then to be able to witness them accomplishing their dream and to be on the court with them at that time, I think was also just extraordinary. Because a lot of these sports docs, you're coming in long after they're over and telling the story. You don't get to actually be embedded with the team. So that was really special.
All right. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Zach.